super simple tutorial on Chopper, which is used with Flutter and Dart. It's used to send HTTP requests to API endpoints. This is a minimalist tutorial. What it does is it just sends out an HTTP request and it gets back a bunch of fake data. The fake data is from JSonPlaceholder. JSonPlaceholder is a free fake API for testing and prototyping. And we're just using the endpoints right here. Additionally, I'm testing the connection to the RICOH THETA camera line. I'm using the X for this tutorial. The API does work with the RICOH THETA Z1, the SC2, as well as the V. We're going to start off this first tutorial with Dart, not Flutter. So we'll use Dart create, call it Chopper minimal. We'll change everything to Chopper minimal, and then we'll need to add Chopper. Chopper uses a concept of code generation, so we're going to have to use build runner. And we're going to add build runner to the dev dependencies. So we do -dev. It's build runner. And we'll also add Chopper generator. So you see in the pubspec.yaml, there's these two different sections. One is the dependencies, and the other one is the dev dependencies here. So under lib, let's create a services folder. And then we're going to create a file for the we'll first test out the JSON placeholder. So let's call it maybe JSON service.dart. And then within this file, we'll first start off with importing the Chopper package. And there's going to be a missing file at this point. So it's the name of the current file, and then you gotta do chopper.dart, and it's going to be in red, and it's a little irritating because it's in red, but once we run build runner, this will be resolved. We're going to use this decorator. We're going to grab the post. So this post is actually from the JSON placeholder API. So looking at the resources here, one of the endpoints here is /post, right, from this beginning part here. And it's going to be a get, and that is the post that we're using right here for JSON placeholder. So the next is just a class that we will, you can treat almost like a boilerplate. So it's the name of the service. So generally it's the same name right here as your file. We'll just call it JSON service. It's going to extend the Chopper service. So this request is a get. It's either a get or a post, usually. And this particular one is a get. And it's going to return something in the future. Let's call it get post. So this is, we're defining this get post. So syntax looks a little weird at first, but you eventually get used to it. And it's all red, but once we run the build runner, it should create this file that's missing, and we should be able to resolve our errors. So the syntax is dart run build runner is the name of the tool, build. Looks like the build succeeded and the errors have been resolved. And there's this new file, which you don't edit it by hand. It's automatically generated from JSON from this file here. So we can have this thing be automatically generated with some different options, but for this tutorial, we're just going to run it one time. So now we need to set up the application to consume the service. So it creates this automatic template here, which we're not going to use, so I'll delete it. And oops, I deleted the wrong one. Okay, so this file chopper minimal now is the name of their project. All it has is this main method here. We're going to make it async because we have to wait for a response from the network. And then we'll set up the chopper client. So this base URL we're getting from the JSON placeholder site. We have to pass it a list of services, and we only have one service right now. So that is our JSON service. So if you recall, we created this create method here. And we have our chopper client now. So this get services from chopper, and we have to specify the name of the actual service here in these angle brackets. And ours is called JSON service. So with this boilerplate code, we can now make the call to the network. We called our method getPost. So now we have it. We'll check to see if the response is successful. It will print out the body. Or else we'll print out the error and the HTTP status code. So according to the documentation, if I use this starter portion here, and with this endpoint here, pulse, I should get 100 pulse. So let's test it out. So the start of the file is in bin, so it's chopper minimal. Oh, look, it's working. I have 100 pulse. Because the RICOH THETA camera is acting like an HTTP server endpoint, the command is very similar to actually access the theta. So we're going to use chopper again. So we'll call it our theta service.dart. We can probably just maybe copy this portion. So we use the decorator for chopper again, and the base URL we're going to use is /osc, which is from the RICOH THETA documentation. So the endpoint on the camera is going to be this 192.168.1.1. When the camera starts up, we're going to connect the laptop over to the camera as if the camera was the Wi-Fi hotspot. And then the endpoint, all the commands are going to start with this OSC. So we're going to use that as the start of the endpoint, the path for the endpoint. The one we're going to focus on right now is this info here, which is going to be /osc/info, and it's a get, not a post. So similar to with the JSON placeholder service, it's an abstract class. Let's call it theta service, and it's going to extend the chopper service. We're going to set a path for this info. So this is info is from the API documentation, and the headers is also, it's specified in the API documentation. So the endpoint here on the official documentation for the RICOH THETA is OSC/info. But if you look at the, let's see, I think it's the overview. It does list this header here, which this is the header that I took. So you could copy and paste it in. I'm just kind of familiar with it, which is why I know that this header is required. So this theta info is the name of our function that we decide. So this thing is for your own reference to make it easy for you to find. Okay, so there's some errors here, right? Because we need to run the build runner in order to get this thing to work. Same command, and you could set this thing to automatically run, but running it manually for this tutorial is dart run build runner build. Whoops, error. Forgot to specify the file. So it's the name of the current file that you're at plus chopper.dart. And the file doesn't exist, so you're initially going to get an error. But let's try to create that file with build runner. So run dart run build runner build. Okay, looks a little bit better this time. All right, we're good to go. So we have the service built up. Now we just need to create a file or a way to run the service. So I'll call the file here theta minimal. I'll keep it separate so that it's easier to see, so that we just want to keep the example as minimal as possible. Right. We could maybe just start off with this and then change it. So as you recall from the API documentation, the endpoint is different. It's an HTTP, not an HTTPS 192.168.1.1. So that's one change. And we're going to have to use a converter here for JSON. Oh, wait. There you go, converter. So the method that we created was getInfo. I think. Theta info.
Did you get an invite for Slack from Constantia?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to connect the Wi-Fi to the RICOH Theta as a hotspot, and I'll connect in. I've already put the password in earlier, so it should just be able to connect.
They communicate a fair amount through it. Can you open the media list?
So the file to execute is this theta_minimal.dart, right? So I'm going to go bin theta_minimal.dart, and whoa, it works. Look at this. So we're getting a API response back from the RICOH Theta camera here. So in this next example after this, we'll add some additional commands onto the services and then put it into Flutter.